Stephen Sondheim revolutionized music theater during his 7-decade career on the Great White Way. Known as both a lyricist and a composer, Sondheim tackled topics that were unusually complex and difficult compared to the other offerings on Broadway. My name is Dr. Dominique Royam, and I'm a music director, conductor, and music communicator here to help you achieve a deeper connection to the music you love. Follow me on social media at Dominique Royam for more content. Let's talk about Stephen Sondheim. Sondheim was born in New York, the only son of Etta Janet, or Foxy Sondheim, and Herbert Sondheim. Before his parents divorced when he was 10, Sondheim lived in Upper West Side of Manhattan. He described himself as an isolated, emotionally neglected child. His father was a successful dress manufacturer, and his mother was an interior designer who also designed for his father's company. Sondheim's father would entertain the household by playing and singing at the piano, making up songs as well-known Broadway tune pastiches. His mother and father regularly made trips to Paris for the couture season to bring back the most up-to-date fashions for their dress business. However, on one trip, Herbert Sondheim was alone and fell in love with Alicia Babet. They had a whirlwind romance and decided to take a 6-month break to see if they still wanted to be together. Nothing had changed after that 6-month break, so Herbert left Sondheim's mother and Alicia left her husband, publishing executive Bill Walling. It completely upended Sondheim's life. He was sent to military school. To his great surprise, Sondheim loved it. He loved the structure for the 2 years he was there, 6th grade and 8th grade. He skipped the 7th grade. During the summers, he was sent to Camp Auguste Grogan in Maine. His mother got custody of him, so he lived with her and also visited his father. Sondheim's mother, Foxy as she was called, soon wanted Sondheim to step up and be the man of the house while trying to poison his mind against his father. Sondheim said, "When my father left her, she substituted me for him, and she used me the way she had used him, to come on to and to berate, beat upon, you see. What she did to me for 5 years was to treat me like dirt, but come on to me at the same time." Sondheim was betrayed and did not trust easily after this. He was especially wary about potential for women to come on to him, especially at parties. After the divorce, Foxy bought a property in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, just 4 miles from Oscar and Dorothy Hammerstein. Sondheim and one of Hammerstein's children, Jamie Hammerstein, had hit it off a half-year earlier when their mothers met. They shared a passion for Monopoly and other games. Sondheim was soon established as such a close friend as to be a relative of the family. His mother would have benders in their Bucks County home, and Sondheim would escape to the Hammersteins. At 12, Sondheim began his studies at the George School in Newtown, Pennsylvania. He was to spend the next 4 years there. He took piano lessons and was even encouraged to become a concert pianist, but realized that that profession was not for him when he blanked out in the middle of a performance of a Chopin Polonaise. Composing, however, was a different matter. Sondheim's first attempt to write songs was in 1945 when he and a classmate began writing a musical about the life at the George School. After a change in collaborators, it was developed into By George with 3 acts, 20 songs, and a cast about 50. It was a big hit at the school, one of the biggest hits that the George School had seen in nearly a decade. Sondheim had Hammerstein review the score in his excitement, thinking that the older man would be impressed. Sondheim recalled then saying, "Now do you want my opinion as though I don't know you? Well, it's the worst thing I've ever read." Hammerstein went on, "I didn't say that it was untalented, I said it was terrible. If you want to know why it's terrible, I'll tell you." Thus began Sondheim's mentorship relationship with Hammerstein. Famously, Hammerstein instructed Sondheim to write 4 musicals. One based on a play he admired. Sondheim chose George S. Kaufman's and Mark Connelly's Beggar on a Horseback, which became All That Glitters. One based on a play that he thought was flawed. Sondheim chose Maxwell Anderson's High Tour. One based on an existing novel or short story not previously dramatized, which became his unfinished version of Mary Poppins, and an original, which became Climb High. None of these musicals were produced professionally. When work on Hammerstein's Allegro started, he encouraged Sondheim to come to the theater and be a glorified office boy through the process. Allegro was ultimately a flop, but it had a formative influence on Sondheim because it was inventive, even though it had failed. Sondheim said, "That's why I'm drawn to experiment. I realize that I'm trying to recreate Allegro all the time." Sondheim went off to Williams College in Massachusetts, a small liberal arts college that ranked directly under the ivies of Harvard and Yale. Sondheim was attracted to the theater at Williams, which was new and had many professional design aspects. He did not care that the music department was small because Sondheim, at first, did not major in music. He took classes from Robert Barrow, whom Sondheim hated, and Joachim Nin Kummel. Sondheim's first musical loves were the Russians, Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff, and Prokofiev, along with Brahms. But in college, he was attracted to Ravel and Copland, writing several papers on those new composers. Sondheim said that Ravel was the one responsible for most popular music that has been written in the 20th century. That is to say, his harmonic influence, all the secondary sevenths, is what pop music has existed on even into the age of rock. Sondheim was a junior in college when he started writing the musicals assigned by Hammerstein. The first one, All That Glitters, was never produced, but BMI published several songs. He graduated from Williams with a degree in music and won the Hubbard Hutchingson Prize, a 2-year grant to study music. He lived in his father's New York dining room to make ends meet. He chose to study with Milton Babbit, known for his 12-tone method. Some thought this was a strange choice since Sondheim was not interested in the 12-tone technique, but to Sondheim it made sense. He said, "I wanted to study composition, theory, and harmony without the attendant musicology that comes in graduate school. But I know I wanted to write for the theater, so I wanted someone that did not disdain theater music. Milton, who was a frustrated show composer, was a perfect combination." Sondheim wanted to study Copland and Ravel and made exhaustive studies of Beethoven symphonies and Mozart sonatas. One of his most valuable lessons from Babbit was how to write long line composition, or how to structure a work that would make sense if it went on for 4 or 40 minutes. Sondheim's involvement in West Side Story happened because of a party. Bert Sherlove invited Sondheim to a party, and Sondheim arrived before Bert. The only person he knew in the room was playwright-author Laurents, who had just seen him audition a different show. They began talking about Laurents' current project with Jerome Robbins and Leonard Bernstein, a Romeo and Juliet story set in the slums of New York. Sondheim asked who was writing the lyrics and heard that Bernstein collaborators Betty Comden and Adolph Green were tied up in Hollywood. Laurents, who liked Sondheim's lyrics for the project Saturday Night, said he could audition for Bernstein the next day. Sondheim did so, and Bernstein said they would let him know. He was offered the co-lyricist job. Sondheim wanted to write both music and lyrics, but was counseled by Hammerstein to take the show. Sondheim remembers Hammerstein saying, "Look, you have a chance to work with very gifted professionals on a show that sounds interesting, and you should always write your own music eventually. My advice would be to take the job." The job meant close collaboration with Bernstein, and there was an immediate clash of both personalities and writing styles. Bernstein wrote some lines that Sondheim considered purple, brimming with over-emotion. As he had learned from Hammerstein, music amplified the song's emotional effect, so a lyricist had to be very careful to ensure the final product was not the reverse of what was intended. Bernstein approached the lyrics with an easy sentimentality that overexposed the show's emotion, leading to direct conflict with Sondheim. Being the junior partner, Sondheim made as many changes as he could muster politically. Other than lyrics, Bernstein and Sondheim got along great. They both had a passion for word games and would pore over crossword puzzles in their downtime. Sondheim remembers West Side Story as full of errors. He said, "Words must sit on music in order to become clear to the audience. You don't get a chance to hear the lyric twice, and if it doesn't sit and bounce when the music bounces or rise when the music rises, the audience becomes confused. America has 27 words to the square inch. I had a wonderful quatrain that went, I like to be in America, okay by me in America, everything free in America, for a small fee in America. The little for small fee was my zinger, except the for is accented and small fee is impossible to say that fast, so it went for small fee in America. No one knew what that meant. The lyric in question is still in the musical number America. Let's take a look at that now with the 1961 film.
I like to be in America, okay by me in America, everything free in America.
For a small fee in America.
Sondheim did not want to be known as a lyricist only. He said that no one remembers who wrote the words, and wanted to compose as well. Producer David Merrick had come up with an idea to do a musical based on Gypsy Rose Lee's memoir, and got together a Jerome Robbins and author Laurents team. They had the star Ethel Merman attached to the project as well. Laurents proposed that Sondheim do the music and the lyrics, but Merman vetoed that idea. She had just done a musical with an unknown composer and lyricist, and she did not want to do it again. Jules Styne was brought in to compose the music. Laurents tried to convince Sondheim to take on the project as a lyricist only, and Sondheim asked Hammerstein for advice again. Hammerstein argued that writing for such a famous star outweighed the drawbacks. Sondheim let himself be persuaded. Sondheim spent the autumn of 1958 working on Gypsy in close rapport with Laurents. They would spend hours talking about how to shape the piece, with Styne willing to write and throw out music if it did not meet the dramatic potential of the moment. The show was written fast, so fast that they didn't consult Robbins about it much. Once Ethel Merman saw the lyrics, she warmed up to Sondheim, and Sondheim learned a lot through this opportunity. This ability to tailor songs to singers would help him with shows like Company and Sweeney Todd. The number Rose's Turn was a turning point in his evolution as a dramaticist. Sondheim imagined the number, put together the music, and wrote the lyrics for the linchpin number of the show. He wrote something for the character that was revelatory and personally devastating, a blueprint for the quintessential Sondheim hero. At the end of Rose's Turn, Sondheim insisted that no one be allowed to applaud. He said, "A woman having a nervous breakdown should not get applause from the audience. To have a mad scene and then have a bow violated everything I thought I had learned from Oscar Hammerstein, who taught me to be true to the character and the situation. So I forced Jewel not to put an ending on it, but to have it fade out with high scratchy violin sounds with the last chords when she's screaming, not singing, but screaming, 'For me, for me, for me.' And there would be this chilling moment in the theater, and then, as Arthur wrote it, the daughter would come out of the wings applauding her, and they would go on." The scene was played this way in Philly when Hammerstein came to see it. He had 3 points of contention after the show. The doorknob kept falling off. The song "You'll Never Get Away From Me" should be at the end of the scene instead of in the middle. And he said, "You must give Ethel Merman an ending to Rose's Turn." Sondheim goes on, "I started to bristle and I said, 'Why?' And he said, 'Because the audience is so anxious to applaud her that they are not listening to the scene that follows. Since the scene that follows is what the entire play is about, you want them to listen. You must let them release themselves. I know it's dishonest, but please, fellows, put a big ending on that number if you want the rest of the play to play, or bring down the curtain right there." They rewrote the ending, and Hammerstein was right again. Let's look at the finish of Rose's Turn to look at that rewritten ending. This is Bette Midler in the 1993 film of the show.
I had a dream. I dreamed it for you, June. It wasn't for me, Herbie. And if it wasn't for me, then where would you be, Miss Gypsy Rose Lee? Well, someone tell me, when is it my turn? Don't I get a dream for myself? Starting now, it's gonna be my turn. Gangway world, get off of my runway. Starting now, I bet 1,000. This time, boys, I'm taking the balls and everything's coming around. Everything's coming up roses. Everything's coming up roses. This time for me. For me. For me. For me.
Thank you for joining me in the series about the life of Stephen Sondheim. If you want to learn more about the composer, an excellent biography is Stephen Sondheim, A Life by Merle Seacrest. A link can be found to it in the description box below. Like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more. What do you want to learn about next? Leave me a comment down below. You can also support the making of these videos on Patreon. These videos take over 20 hours of research to complete, so Patreon is a great way to show your support. The bibliography for this video can be found on my website, dominiqueroyam.com. Interested in seeing my process? I document it on my social media, so follow me for more updates. My handles are listed below. Thanks again, and see you in my next video.